Have you ever stepped into a room and felt an immediate shift in the air, like something invisible changed before a single word was spoken? That's not your imagination. What you're sensing is energy. It's not just what you say or do, it's the unspoken force you carry, an aura, a vibrational field that enters the room before you do. It's your presence, subtle yet undeniable, and it has weight. It moves people, even when you're silent. Psychologist Carl Jung referred to this as the self, the inner organizing principle where your ego and true essence converge. When your internal world aligns, when who you are and how you live become one, your energy becomes unmistakably powerful. And for some, that power is disarming, even intimidating. Some people will be drawn to you like a magnet. Others may recoil, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your light naturally reveals the shadows they'd rather not face. Without effort, without intention, your presence becomes a mirror, and not everyone is ready to look. Throughout history, cultures and traditions have told stories of those with presence that transcends explanation. The wise shaman whose very arrival shifts the energy of an entire village. The calm, grounded leader who dissolves conflict without saying a word, or the mysterious person who walks into a room and suddenly the air feels heavier, stiller, as if time itself pauses. What connects them all? An inner coherence, a living alignment, a frequency that radiates truth. They don't just walk into spaces, they transform them. And in this video, we're going to uncover 13 unmistakable signs that your aura is so powerful, it might make people uncomfortable. But more importantly, you'll begin to understand the gift of your presence, and why what makes you different isn't a flaw to hide, but the very thing that makes you magnetic. So stay with me until the end, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, because this journey into your deeper power is just beginning. The first sign, your presence is inexplicably striking. Have you ever noticed how some people come and go without leaving a trace, while others leave a lingering impression that stays long after they've walked away? They didn't speak much. You may not even know their name, yet somehow they left a mark. That's you. It's not about how you look or what you say, it's what you carry. Your presence doesn't shout, it resonates. It's the kind of presence that walks into a room before your body does, quiet yet profound. A felt experience. People say things like, "There's something about that person." They can't quite explain it, but they feel it in their bones. That something is the subtle density of your energy, shaped by every truth you've lived, every wound you've healed, every piece of yourself you've reclaimed. As Carl Jung once said, the psyche transcends the body. You are not just flesh and thought. You are vibration, integration, essence. And when who you are on the inside aligns with what you radiate outward, you create something unforgettable. An energetic signature that feels like a scent no one can see but everyone remembers. It stirs something in others, memories, emotions, restlessness, peace. Your presence is a mirror. To some it soothes, to others it disrupts. But either way, it lands. That's what makes you unforgettable, and also sometimes misunderstood. You may find yourself feeling out of place, like your energy enters rooms before people are ready for it. You're met with curiosity, resistance, even projection. People sense your light before they understand your story. But that doesn't mean you're meant to shrink. It means you were never meant to go unnoticed. So don't explain yourself. Don't dilute your frequency to fit the silence. Your presence is your power, and the world will catch up. The second sign. Your aura expands or threatens others, but it's never neutral. Your presence doesn't go unnoticed, and it was never meant to. You're not the kind of energy that blends into the background. When you enter a room, something activates. People feel more or feel too much. Why? Because your energy doesn't just occupy space, it stirs the space. For some it feels like expansion. For others, It feels like disruption. But either way, you awaken something. You don't have to speak, you don't have to ask questions. Just by being fully you, you brush against the hidden layers in others, their buried stories, unspoken truths, the parts they've learned to lock away. It's not something you do, it's something you are. Carl Jung said, "Each of us carries a shadow, everything we have refused to acknowledge about ourselves. And when your aura is clean, coherent, and aligned, it becomes a mirror to those shadows." To someone still living behind masks, your authenticity can feel like a threat, not because you're wrong, but because you represent something they haven't yet allowed themselves to be. Your light can make others uncomfortable, not by shining too bright, but by revealing what's been kept in the dark. It can provoke irritation, discomfort, even unexplainable dislike. People project what they can't process, and in doing so, they turn your presence into a battleground for their inner conflict. But here's the other side. To the ones who are ready, your presence feels like a breath of fresh air, like an unspoken permission slip to be real. You make people feel bigger just by being near you. They feel seen, stirred, softened. You become a portal to something more truth, more clarity, more wholeness. You are often the catalyst they didn't know they were waiting for. And the truth is, you emit the same energy to everyone. The difference lies in the state of the receiver. Some will run, others will lean in like they've finally found something they didn't even know they were missing. Because your aura doesn't whisper, it resonates, it opens doors, and it calls people to either rise or retreat. That's your power. Not to persuade, not to perform, but to reflect, reveal, and remind the world of what it still tries to hide. The third sign: animals, children, and nature recognize you instantly, because your aura speaks a language beyond words. Have you ever noticed how animals come to you easily? How a child, without knowing your name, locks eyes with you and softens? How the breeze feels different when you step into the forest, as if nature itself is listening? That's not coincidence. That's your aura being recognized by the instinctive world. Unlike people, animals don't judge by appearance, language, or social cues. They don't care how well you're dressed, what you've achieved, or how persuasive your smile is. They feel your energy, your intention, your emotional state, your truth. They pick up on coherence. And when you carry that, they come closer. A dog senses if your heart is calm, even if your face says you're fine. A bird might pause its flight. A stray cat might rest by your feet, not because you called them, but because your frequency did. Carl Jung taught us that the unconscious doesn't understand logic the way the conscious mind does. It speaks in symbols, vibrations, archetypes, the same language that animals, children, and even ecosystems are fluent in. So when your aura is aligned, centered, grounded, clean, they recognize you. Not as a stranger, but as something familiar, something safe, something real. You don't need to say a word. Nature feels your stillness. Children sense your sincerity. Animals read your peace like it's printed on the air around you. This is the silent truth of your energy. It doesn't demand trust. It earns it, just by existing in integrity, and that's a kind of magic the modern world has forgotten. But the wild and innocent never have. Of course, the opposite is true as well. If your energy is chaotic, full of repressed emotion or hidden tension, animals will sense that too. They may grow distant. Children might grow restless. Not as punishment, but as a natural response to energetic dissonance. You can't fool the instinctive world. It doesn't listen to your words. It listens to your presence. In that world, strength doesn't shout. It hums, quiet, steady, warm. And when you embody that kind of quiet power, you become a living bridge between realms, between the rational and the intuitive, the seen and the felt. This is the gift of a powerful aura. It communicates without performance. It connects without explanation. It resonates where logic cannot reach. Children, animals, and the natural world don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be real. The fourth sign, you intimidate without trying, because your presence exposes what others are hiding. You don't walk into a room to dominate. You don't raise your voice. You don't impose. And yet, people shift when you arrive. Postures stiffen. Smiles turn polite but uneasy. Voices change, just slightly, like they're suddenly performing. You felt it, that strange tension. Not because you did anything, but because your energy did. And that can feel confusing, even painful, especially if you're someone who values peace, who leads with kindness, who has no intention to overpower. But here's the truth. It's not about you. It's about what you reflect. In Jungian psychology, the persona is the mask people wear to fit in, the curated self, the role, the performance. Most people get so used to wearing it, they forget it's not who they really are. And then someone like you enters, a person who's dropped the mask, a person who simply is, and suddenly their mask feels too tight. Your authenticity becomes a mirror, not one that flatters, but one that reveals. And that kind of mirror is both rare and uncomfortable. People will project onto you. They'll invent narratives to explain the pressure they feel in your presence. They may confuse your calm with coldness, your clarity with arrogance, your silence with judgment, but what they're really reacting to is their own discomfort. You didn't intimidate them. Their own inauthenticity did. Your presence, pure, quiet, unwavering, whispers a truth they've avoided. It's possible to live without pretending, and for someone who has built their identity on pretending, that truth feels dangerous. Your coherence, your alignment between what you feel, think, and express, isn't loud, but it vibrates. It shakes loose anything unstable in its path, not with aggression, but with clarity. So yes, some will be uncomfortable around you, not because you threaten them, but because your existence challenges everything they're still afraid to face within themselves. But here's the beauty of it. Others will see that same light and feel relief. They'll feel seen, grounded, expanded, like they've finally found something real. You don't need to tone yourself down to be accepted. That's not humility. It's self-abandonment. And it's not your job to soften your truth so others can stay asleep. You do intimidate, but not because you dominate. You intimidate because you reveal. And in a world conditioned to hide, being real is the most unsettling thing you can do. The fifth sign, that your aura holds immense power, is your ability to shift the energy of any space you enter, effortlessly and often unconsciously. Sometimes you're aware of it, other times you just move through the world, not realizing the silent waves you're sending out. But make no mistake, it happens. This isn't a dramatic, attention-grabbing force. It's the opposite, a quiet, grounded power that doesn't need validation. It doesn't scream, it simply is, calm, steady, undeniable. You walk into a room, and there's a subtle but undeniable change. People instinctively adjust themselves. Some sit up straighter, others glance away. A few fall unexpectedly silent. The emotional atmosphere of the space recalibrates itself to your presence. It's not manipulation, and it's certainly not control. It's energetic alignment. Renowned energy healer and former NASA physicist Barbara Brennan, author of Hands of Light, explains that the human energy field, the aura, extends far beyond the physical body. It's not just a metaphysical concept. It's an interactive field that reaches in every direction and connects with everything: people, objects, environments, and emotional climates. According to Brennan, your aura transmits subtle information about who you are, what you feel, and even what you've been through. It's a living record of your journey. When your energy is strong, clear and aligned with your true self, it naturally begins to reorganize its surroundings, not through conscious intention, but simply through presence. Carl Jung referred to this as symbolic presence, the deep, unconscious resonance an individual carries, which activates something within others. When you enter a space, you don't just arrive physically. You bring with you archetypes, unspoken truths, and a certain energetic clarity that others instinctively feel. You represent something meaningful, even if you're unaware of it. And that very presence stirs the environment. Some call it a strong presence, but it's not about dominance or force. It's about vibrational coherence, a purity of frequency within you that brings dissonance into order. Coherence resonates, and in doing so it influences. It harmonizes. It awakens. It sometimes unsettles, not because it's disruptive, but because it reveals what is out of tune. You may never fully realize the extent of your impact, but the field around you does. The energy responds, always. Your aura doesn't crave the spotlight, it simply transforms wherever it goes. And after you leave, the space doesn't quite return to what it was before. The sixth unmistakable sign that your aura is too powerful to overlook is your ability to intuitively read people and spaces without effort, without trying. This isn't guesswork. It's not some abstract sixth sense that floats in the mystical realm. It's a living intelligence, a deep embodied awareness that functions beneath the surface of conscious thought, yet delivers astonishingly accurate insights. You don't always know how you know, but you know. You enter a room and something feels off, even when everything looks picture perfect. Someone speaks, and even with a smile on their face, you can feel the discomfort they're hiding. The air might feel still, yet you can sense tension woven quietly into the space. It's as if your very skin breathes in the atmosphere, decoding what's unspoken. Your body becomes an instrument tuned to frequencies beyond the five senses. That's intuition. And when your aura is clear, grounded and expanded, your energetic field becomes an antenna, sensitive, refined, and incredibly precise. It picks up vibrations others miss, tiny shifts in tone, micro-expressions, energetic static. It doesn't shout at you with answers. It whispers truths that you feel rather than think. As Carl Jung once said, the unconscious speaks in symbols, emotions, and sensations. Intuition is the language of the soul. It doesn't debate. It doesn't explain. It simply points. It nudges. It reveals. That's why you can tell when energy is out of alignment. You sense the dissonance behind someone's mask. You can walk into a room and know, this place is heavy. This feels safe. That person isn't being real. You don't need backstory, proof, or validation. You just know. And often that knowing arrives before logic can catch up, before the facts appear, which can be disorienting. Sometimes you try to rationalize it away. You tell yourself you're imagining things, being too sensitive, overanalyzing, but a deeper voice inside you already knows, no, this is real. Your aura is reading the world. Your body is translating the subtle language of vibration. And even without intention, you're always interpreting the symbolic layers of reality. Sometimes this heightened perception protects you. Other times it overwhelms. There are moments you wish you didn't feel so much, didn't sense so deeply. But that sensitivity is not a weakness, it's a gift, a rare one. You were born with a symbolic lens. You don't just see what's visible. You feel through stories, layers, and energies. You read between the lines, often without even realizing you're doing it. In a world that thrives on surface appearances and distractions, this intuitive depth is a quiet superpower. It can't be taught, but it can be nurtured. And the more you align with your own truth, the sharper, clearer, and more accurate that inner compass becomes. The seventh sign that your aura is undeniably powerful is this: Small talk exhausts you, not because you're antisocial, not because you're cold, but because your spirit craves substance and your energy field simply won't engage with the superficial. You've done your best. You've smiled, nodded, asked about the weather, the weekend, the housework. And can you believe this traffic? You've played the part. But inside, you start to fade. Your mind drifts. Your chest tightens. Something deep within you begins to withdraw, as if quietly whispering, "This is not where I belong." That's not rudeness. It's resonance. Your aura is too finely tuned to pretend that empty words are meaningful. You're not wired to entertain noise. You feel the hollowness beneath the polished pleasantries, and your energy reacts accordingly. It dips, detaches, distances, because your presence craves real presence in return. And where there's no realness, your spirit disengages. It's not that you demand deep, soul-shaking conversations every moment of the day. It's that you value truth, connection, authenticity, energy that meets you, not energy that hides behind roles and rehearsed scripts. Carl Jung once said that we move toward wholeness by integrating what lies in the unconscious. And small talk, superficiality, is the opposite of that. It's avoidance disguised as communication. It's role play dressed up as connection. It's circling around the edges to avoid the center. But you carry the center in your presence. You are an energetic mirror that reflects what's real and exposes what isn't. Just by being, you call others into authenticity. And that can be uncomfortable for people who aren't ready to meet themselves. There's a consequence to this kind of energetic clarity. The crowd thins. You may find yourself having fewer conversations, but each one will matter. You'll attract fewer people, but the ones who stay will be soul deep. And yes, sometimes that selectivity feels like loneliness. But over time you realize it's not a lack, it's a filter, a sacred space that protects your energy from dilution. A quiet, open clearing where you're no longer shrinking yourself just to belong. You weren't meant to speak just to fill silence. You were meant to speak when the soul leans forward. That's not weakness, that's power. Rare, quiet, magnetic power. The 8th sign. Your aura is powerful. People's shadows get projected onto you. This one can be as confusing as it is revealing. When your aura is whole, authentic and aligned, it has a peculiar effect. It activates what others have buried. Without saying a word, without doing anything wrong, you may find yourself the target of unexpected reactions, intense admiration, random criticism, unexplained hostility, or even sudden withdrawal. It doesn't make sense on the surface, but energetically, it makes perfect sense. According to Carl Jung, the shadow is the part of ourselves we've rejected, hidden, or disowned in order to be accepted by society. When you show up in your full truth, with presence, vulnerability, strength, and clarity, you become a mirror. Not because you try to reflect others, but because your authenticity highlights where others are still fragmented. Your light touches the places they've tried to keep in the dark. And light, by its very nature, reveals shadow. This projection isn't really about you, it's about the unprocessed parts of the other person, but it moves through you, and that's why it can feel personal. You trigger something in them, not by force, but by simply being. Your presence shines too bright for their inner shadows to stay comfortably hidden. So what can you do? You learn to discern. You begin to ask, is this mine, or is this someone else's projection? Not to defend or protect yourself, but to remain yourself. To stay rooted instead of becoming who someone else's wounds need you to be. Being a canvas for projection is not a punishment. It's a sign that you're carrying truth energy, the kind that can't be faked. And while not everyone is ready for that, it doesn't mean you should dim your light. The 9th sign. Your aura is powerful. Your silences speak louder than words. True presence doesn't need noise. In fact, one of the most potent signs of a powerful aura is the silence you carry, not the awkward kind, not the silence born of avoidance, but the kind of silence that feels full, grounded, magnetic. It's a quiet confidence, a sacred stillness that radiates without effort. When you stop filling space with unnecessary words, when you hold your energy rather than scattering it, you become undeniably impactful. People notice. They may not know why, but they feel it. You walk into a room and shift its frequency without a single word. That's presence. Presence is not volume. It's not about being loud, convincing, or constantly explaining yourself. It's the exact opposite. It's the deep inner knowing that you are enough, that your energy alone speaks volumes. In this silence, there is power because nothing is being forced. People with strong auras don't rely on words to prove their worth. They understand that well-placed silence can cut through noise like lightning. They trust that vibration communicates louder than any sentence, and they hold their center with such ease that others feel the 10th sign. Your aura is powerful. People confess things to you without knowing why. You've probably experienced it more than once. A stranger you just met starts sharing the rawest parts of their story, wounds from childhood, hidden fears, memories they haven't spoken of in years. The conversation started light, maybe even casual. And then suddenly, it wasn't. Something cracked open. Their words spill out, sometimes followed by tears they didn't see coming. And you're left sitting there, holding something sacred you didn't ask for, but were chosen to receive. This is not a coincidence. It's energetic. Your aura creates a safe field, a space where people instinctively feel they can drop the mask. Even if only for a moment they sense they won't be judged, fixed, or analyzed, they feel seen, not in the performative way the world often demands, but in the quiet, soul-level way that says, you're allowed to be here as you are. You don't pry, you don't push, you don't chase answers, but you hold space, and that is rare. Carl Jung wrote that the unconscious is always looking for a way to express itself, but it needs a vessel, a presence that is steady, open, and non-judgmental. When it finds that vessel, it speaks, and sometimes it pours out. That vessel is you. You may not realize what you're doing, but your energy tells people, it's safe here. You don't have to pretend. You can exhale. Your silence doesn't demand a performance. Your listening doesn't come with conditions. You're not trying to fix anyone, because you know the deepest kind of healing happens when someone is allowed to simply be heard, and that's exactly what you offer, presence without pressure. That's why people confess to you, not because you pull it out of them, but because you create the only space where their soul finally feels safe enough to speak. Sometimes they'll look at you afterward with surprise, even embarrassment, like they've revealed too much. But it wasn't exposure. It was relief. It wasn't a slip-up. It was medicine. And your aura, your presence, was the doorway. You're not just a good listener. You're a container for truth. You don't just hold conversations. You hold emotional weight others didn't even know they were carrying until they set it down at your feet. And here's the most powerful part. You can only hold that kind of space because you've done it for yourself first. You've met your own shadow. You've sat with your own pain. And in doing so, you've become the kind of person who can hold others without breaking, judging, or needing to fix. So if people confide in you effortlessly, if they say, "I've never told anyone this before," if friends or strangers alike feel different around you, lighter somehow after being near you, it's not by accident. It's your aura. And in today's world, that kind of energetic presence is one of the rarest forms of healing there is. The 11th sign. Your aura is powerful. Your freedom irritates those still hiding. Freedom, real freedom, the kind that lives in your bones, not just your words, has a strange effect on people. It disrupts, not by intention, not with force, but simply by existing. When you show up as your whole self, unfiltered, unmasked, unashamed, it makes others take a hard look at the parts of themselves they've kept locked away. You don't have to say a word. You don't need to challenge anyone directly. Your very presence becomes a question that echoes silently in the background. And you? Are you still pretending? This is the quiet power of an untamed aura. It doesn't seek attention. It doesn't ask permission. It just lives in full alignment, unapologetically. And that's exactly why it unsettles people. In a world that often rewards conformity, your authenticity feels like rebellion. Your lightness highlights the heaviness others still carry. Your self-trust becomes a mirror to someone else's doubt. Your joy can feel like confrontation to those still trapped in performance. They may not consciously know why they're uncomfortable around you, but their energy tells the truth before their mind can catch up. You've claimed something they've abandoned in themselves. That's why your freedom feels dangerous. It's not loud, but it's undeniable. It doesn't argue, but it challenges. It doesn't accuse, but it reveals. You don't point fingers, you don't need to, because your life already says everything. I chose truth over approval. I chose presence over performance. I chose to be free. And that in itself is revolutionary. So if you've noticed that some people grow cold when you're just being yourself, if you've felt the sting of rejection that came out of nowhere, if your joy, peace, or boldness seems to stir silent resistance, it's not about you doing something wrong, it's about you doing something rare. You've stepped into your full self, and in doing so, you've become a reflection of what's possible. And not everyone is ready to see that, but those who are, they'll be drawn to your freedom like oxygen to a flame, because deep down, they've been suffocating too, and your aura reminds them they were never meant to live in cages. The 12th sign. Your aura is powerful. You leave a presence that lingers after you're gone. Have you ever left a room, but somehow your presence didn't? The conversation ends. The door closes. The moment moves on, but something of you remains. In the air, in their thoughts, in the silence that follows. That's not imagination. That's energetic memory. When your aura has weight, true, grounded, soul-deep presence, it doesn't just occupy space while you're in it. It imprints on it. The way you show up stays, and when you leave, people feel it. Not always consciously, but something feels different, as if the atmosphere itself is adjusting to your absence. This isn't about attention. It's not about performance. It's not something you do. It's something you are. A strong aura carries resonance, and resonance doesn't disappear when the physical body exits. It echoes. Sometimes what remains is inspiration. Sometimes it's discomfort, because your truth challenged something unspoken. Other times, it's a void, a quiet sense of something missing that no one can name, but everyone feels. You don't have to say much. You don't have to take up space loudly. You just have to be fully present while you're there, and the rest takes care of itself. That kind of presence can't be bought, faked, or forced. It comes from doing the inner work, from being in alignment with your truth, from living in integrity with your energy. People remember you not because you tried to be unforgettable, but because you were actually there. Not just physically, but energetically, emotionally, soulfully. Some people are forgotten while they're still in the room. Others, like you, are remembered long after they've left, because what you brought with you wasn't just words or gestures. It was essence. So if you've ever had someone tell you, "I've been thinking about what you said," or "I don't know why, but I keep remembering that moment we shared," or even, "Something feels different since you left," That's your aura still at work. That's your energy leaving fingerprints on the invisible. That's your soul reminding the space it was here and it mattered. The ultimate sign your aura is unmistakably powerful, even if it makes others uncomfortable. The clearest indicator that your energy field, your aura, is deeply potent is this. Your presence itself feels like a transmission of something ancient, earned, and unwavering. People don't just sense light or calmness when they're around you. They feel the echo of everything you've endured to become who you are. The grounded serenity you carry, the quiet power, the unshakable essence. They weren't picked up from self-help books or borrowed from inspirational quotes. They were forged in fire. Your aura has been shaped by nights of inner battles, by confronting your own shadows, by heartbreaks that felt like endings and yet weren't. You've gone through internal deaths where pieces of your identity crumbled so something more authentic could emerge. That's what people feel. We often romanticize aura as some instant, radiant glow, but the truth is more raw. What truly radiates from you is refined soul energy, the kind that's been tested, challenged, and purified. Your aura isn't a costume you put on. It's a witness to every choice you've made not to abandon yourself. You are not light because you've never been in darkness. You are light because you made it through, one fragile but determined step at a time. And that light, that depth, is what others can't ignore. It stirs something in them, not because you're trying to, but because your very being reflects what they may still be hiding from. Your energy speaks louder than words ever could. But what it says isn't, "Look at me." It whispers, "Here's what's possible when you stop running from yourself." People call it glow, magnetism, a different vibe. But what they're truly feeling is integrity made visible, a soul that walked through the fire and emerged real, not burned. You no longer perform, you simply are. And that authenticity ripples outward, changing the atmosphere of every room you enter. But this isn't about ego or superiority. It's about awareness, a life lived consciously, courageously. These aren't spiritual trophies or badges of enlightenment. They're evidence of quiet, deep, often lonely work. You've stopped shrinking to appease, stopped pretending to belong where your soul outgrew. Your presence now disrupts not by force but by reflection. You mirror back to others what's unhealed, what's misaligned, what's aching to be seen, and that can be uncomfortable. But here's the truth. You don't have to shrink to make others feel safe. You don't need to dim your light because someone else hasn't yet found theirs. You've outgrown the rooms that once held you, and your expansion isn't up for negotiation. You're not here to blend in. You're here to awaken. Your aura, a signature of your soul, is not something you manipulate. It's the natural, invisible extension of your truth. The more aligned you are with yourself, the more undeniable that energy becomes. Yes, some won't understand you. Some will misinterpret your presence. Others may project their fears or insecurities onto you. But that's the cost of wholeness. That's the path of those who walk in their own light. So don't apologize for the way your energy shakes things loose. Don't hold back just because your fullness makes others uncomfortable. You're not here to please. You're here to live in truth. As Carl Jung once said, the collective unconscious reacts to what it hasn't yet integrated. You are that reaction, a reminder, a mirror, a silent invitation for others to rise. And if this resonates with you, if you felt the pull of your own presence, then comment below. My aura speaks before I do. That's our silent password. The ones who know will know. Stay informed. Stay safe. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.